Welcome back to Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. I am Juliet Hahn, and that is the way I always say it. And you pointed out, I think finally you listened to me. You don't usually listen to me, apparently.
Finally listen to you. Look who's talking. Jeez.
Well, apparently, because I listened back since you said that. I was like, wait, isn't that how I always say it? Maybe I don't. And then I listened back. I'm like, that's how I say it. Clearly, someone wasn't listening every opening, which I think is kind of funny.
We tape on Mondays, right? Monday mornings. So let's be clear.
And it's an hour earlier for you. So yes, you are.
It's Monday morning. I got fucking Curious George here on the other end of the fucking camera. Put her Curious George hat on every Monday morning. Oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Where are we going to dig?
Oh my God, that's like a dog, like my dog. That's actually hilarious.
Right.
And I didn't even get to say.
And you have full control. Your dogs, they're whining because they want this and that, jeez.
Yeah, I know. I'm totally fine with that.
And grandma won't get these two blind dogs I want to adopt, but she won't do it.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to talk about that.
She doesn't. She's like, we don't need two retarded dogs with two retarded of us.
She's like, great, thanks. So I
didn't. Gallery over there. I did not say that.
I was going to say she did not say that. Well, so I'm here with my co-host Brent Sopel because I never finished and looped that around. So today you're probably going to love this even more because I'm going to take it back down memory lane, and I want. Because we haven't done this, we actually have never done this, but I don't think we've also done this in a long time, where there's things in your story from the beginning that have always stuck out to me, that anytime I think of your story, there are things that stick in my head. And I want us to do a kind of I want you to talk about some of the things in my story that have stuck out, and I'm going to do the same with you. And so I'm going to start. Okay. So let's see how this goes. Okay. So, and giggle pants over there. So when you
let's see how this goes. I love when you start with that.
Let's see where this goes. So from the beginning, when I learned about your story, now I think March is going to be 2 years. One where you threw a desk in third grade. Right. One was that you never really had anyone stop and ask you to help you. And they clearly knew you were struggling, but where you grew up in Canada, it was kind of like, we know the path you're going to be a hockey player. So it doesn't matter if you can read and write, right? It was no caring. The fact that your mom always helped with homework, and that they had to pull you off the ice because that's where your happy place was, that it was you wanted to be on that ice. And then if you had to do work, you were either standing on your head, climbing under things, where your mom was upside down. All of those things really resonated with me because I can completely understand it. The feeling of when you had to read out loud, and I think yours was grade 9 as well. And then that's when you really kind of started your bullying, because it was the kids made fun of you. It was and knowing that you weren't going to be able to read out loud, but they would call on you. And so once again, you felt like no one had your back, no one understood. Even though you struggled, even at home, no one in your house kind of was like, hey, you seem to be struggling in school. Not it just was not talked about. It was I'll help you with your homework and then let's just push through. So it was never acknowledged of, okay, these are the things that you struggle. I think because you're hockey, it was talked about things that you were good at, but maybe not even in depth, but it just was this big sore thumb that was the elephant in the room that no one addressed.
Is that the pink elephant or the white elephant? Isn't that one of those two? Isn't that saying?
Well, yes. I think that is also, it's going to be so random. At Christmas, there's a white elephant or a white elephant party where you have
isn't there little gifts or something?
Yeah, exactly. But there's also the saying, right, of the elephant in the room that no one talks about. And the fact that really no one in your family still to this day has you've been able to unpack any of this.
And that kind of leads, into a text message that I got this morning. When a mom texted me, motherfucking her ex-husband, to go one of those. But he's trying to get their sons on an IEP dyslexia removed from the IEP. And I'm like, and a couple other things. And I said, why? She's like, he thinks I'm coddling too much and trying to cover too much for him. And why I bring that up is, we've talked about, you want kids to advocate for themselves, or, as you just talked about, nobody's there to help me. Very few people understand this. So they're trying to change things that they don't understand. We talk about this all the time. And you said, I never had somebody, they knew I was struggling. I don't know if they knew I was struggling, just thought I was lazy and just thought I was dumb. So I don't think they had and that's probably the biggest thing. They don't have any of the understanding, right? And that's where bullying comes in. I think I told you last week, there was a 12-year-old girl in, I think it's Trenton, Michigan, committed suicide. She was bullied at school. Now, I haven't been able to find out why. I want to know the why was she bullied. And most parents don't care about the why. Why is Juliet struggling? Why is Brent struggling in the classroom? Why is Montgomery struggling? Lila, why are they struggling? Most don't care to find out that why. So that trouble, that struggling, continues. Your story, which obviously is very different from mine, is there's a lot of understanding in your house. Your mom was a kindergarten teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she wasn't dyslexic, but she had understanding of dyslexia, of what it was to struggle. So you want to talk about your innate confidence? Bullshit.
No, I don't. I really don't think so. But yes.
But your mom instilled confidence in you in a way that I never had. She knew obviously at a young age you learn differently, because of your dad, right? You didn't get your formal diagnosis till later, till college, but she knew you weren't your typical learner. So instead of jamming the round peg in a square hole in those young years, she wasn't doing that. She's putting the round pole in the round hole. You don't remember that. You don't know that. But she had awareness to be able to do that. And which gave you, how gave you that innate confidence that you think that, because you had that support behind you. You had the horse in front of the cart in ways that you had never understood. And you're thinking right now going, I never thought about that.
Well, no, because I have two things that I'm holding on to. I want to let you finish, and then I have
hold.
two.
Let's see.
So when you say, and so I want to challenge and question this for a second. When you say, I know, this is why you love Monday mornings. That in your life they just thought you were lazy and stupid, right? There was plenty of teachers that thought I was lazy and stupid, right? But I did have my mom that was like, she's too clever. She's not lazy or stupid, right? Like she's too clever. And this is where I always find it interesting, our paths, how they come about, because it shapes who we are, right? And also some of the parents, when you're talking about when kids like the bully or the class clown, that they don't care to find out. Do you think, like in your family, it wasn't that they just thought you were lazy and stupid? They were just, they weren't, and I don't want to say curious, or they didn't care. Do you think that there was other things in their lives that they couldn't step out and do it? And then same with school, like that with the teachers, were from a small town. Maybe they were overwhelmed. They were like, I just don't even know what to do. The understanding is what I'm getting to it. Like there was no understanding. My mom had some understanding because of being in education, right? And also who she is. She went into education because she truly is fascinated about how people learn, right? My older sister clearly wasn't she was a struggling learner as well. And so there's all of those kind of pieces that are put together where you didn't have those pieces because the path before. But do you think like, where you grew up, it just was like, there was other outside things that they didn't care about kids in the same way, or it just wasn't like, was there any kids that struggled that got help? Do you know what I mean? Do you know where I'm going with that?
I have
Yeah,
no clue. I have
right, of
no
course.
recollection, none of that. But when we went to dinner Saturday night, I was telling the story about the reading league, how you and I were tweaking, losing our minds about the reading league, and Elizabeth's like, "What are you guys talking about? Like, calm down, like settle the fuck down. It's not a big deal." And so I was explaining to him, why you and I were tweaking, and why we know the reading league is done by non-dyslexic, and it's complete bullshit.
And you're talking about the name. I just want to preface.
Yes, because, and she, and the lady we're with, Saturday night, she came back to me, and so we said, you and I were tweaking because league is a competition, and we struggle at reading, so we would never join any sport or any league or anything where you're bad at.
Right.
And the lady's like, she's like, okay, interesting. She goes, is that from your background of hockey, like that competitive side of things? I'm like, no, that's a very interesting thought, but it's not. And I said, nobody's going to join anything where they suck at it. And she kind of sat back. She goes, oh, kind of like me and bowling.
Right.
She's like, I suck at bowling. I'm like, yeah, so you're not going to join a bowling league if you suck at it. And she's like, okay, that makes more sense. And why I tell her is kind of go back is a lot of the stuff that we talk about as dyslexics have is almost the opposite of what everybody thinks. So I don't know how many times people think I'm an idiot or I got no idea what I'm talking about, right? Because it's so different than what they think. Oh, you're supposed to do that this way. Okay, but we're this way. And we go this way. They're like, what are you talking about? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So and I say this all the time. You guys want to start a reading program, got an email today from the foundation here, sponsor us. And go and have meetings with, big companies, and they like, I can't believe this stuff is this and this is that and this is so crazy, because it's so different, than what they can wrap their brain around. So it's, ask the question of what, at a younger age, was other people getting help? I don't know. I was struggling. I don't even remember. I barely remember any of my childhood. So you have, again, probably 99%. We had a podcast, obviously, Colleen, she's dyslexic, but I don't, Ashley, how many other dyslexic teachers do you know?
Right. As we talked about, there's not a lot, because it's like, why are you going to go? I would never, so many things that I have, I think I even said to you, there's so many things that have come across my plate. My dad, we were talking about my dad being in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to you, I've never said this out loud, but I never went into real estate because of thinking of the test, knowing my dad did it. But I was like, he was so passionate about it that he did it. His family is huge. And like I shared with you, his grandmother, my great-great-grandmother was the first woman realtor in New Jersey. And then my dad's dad had his own company, and so there was a huge thing. One of my sisters went into corporate real estate. And I remember everyone always being like, oh, you're going to totally do the same because you and your dad are so similar. And I was like, no, I'm not. And I never said, I'm not putting myself in that like I have math and numbers and all, like that all sounds terrible. Yes, I can sell but no, I don't like any of that. And so it is right, those things that if you have that test stuff, go.
Saturday night, they asked the same question. So, Brent, you're Canadian. Are you a citizen? I'm like, fuck, I'll never be a citizen. Then they're all up and on, American, don't want to be American. No, I ain't doing the test.
Right.
So
plain and simple.
Not a fucking chance. You think I'm doing a test? Absolutely not. And then I was telling the DMV story where I was trying to make sure everybody laughed, so I didn't have to do a written test. And Elizabeth's friend's sister worked there, so had to come get me. No, tests, no.
And it runs deep with the tests.
Mm-hmm.
And it runs so deep that like even with my kids, when they talk about tests, I still like get the lump in my throat. And I'm like, and it brings me back to obviously the SATs where, people, if they haven't, they can listen to my story, but like there's so many things that, yes, I've gotten ahead of and better and understanding, but you have those scars that are so deep that you can be okay with them, but you still have it's almost what is the word? Like the reaction to it, just like beginning of school, right?
Did I tell you about conversation? We met them here in Chicago, the cup breakfast that morning. The girl was doing her SATs. So she's got extended time.
Mm-hmm.
So mom went in there and, as you're in your fourth and fifth hour writing a goddamn test, forget about it. You're wasting time, right? So she went to the school and said, hey, can we break this up in 2 days? Like dyslexia, we can't take a 5-hour test. And their answer was no, because your IEP has to reflect your SAT. The mom's like, hang on a second. They don't take 5-hour fucking tests in school. So how are you going to reflect an IEP to an SAT? It's impossible. Mm-hmm. But she's just like, they said, no. Imagine just sitting there for 5 hours. Like Elizabeth's got to do, continuing ed for her, for the mortgage business and stuff. And 12th hour, 11 hour and 59 minutes. I got to get this thing done because it's awful. I remember when I first met her, started dating. She's one weekend, couldn't see her. She didn't want to see me. I'm like, oh, she doesn't like me. She's doing her continuing ed. She had to get her test done. She's chammed it in, on a weekend. Awful. I'd rather have my eyes poked out with a fork. Mm-hmm. And then poor girl's doing an SAT, sitting there for 5 hours.
Oh, I remember.
Where were we last week? 5 minutes into, double down.
Right.
I was done. 5 minutes. The lady was very good. She's very well spoken. She did a good job explaining. I was done. 5 minutes in, I'm like, Liz was walking in the kitchen. She looked at me. You okay? I'm like, I was done. Remember 5 hours. Yeah, 5 minutes.
No, I remember. I mean, I had to take that SAT. I'm not kidding. I took it over 15 times.
Like, so, and where I kind of went, on a spring down rabbit hole is everybody wants to teach a dyslexic, but they have zero clue about a dyslexic. So now let's take it back to the opening question. See how I circle back like that?
I do like it. I'm so proud of you.
this was asking about, each other's journey. That's the part of your journey that I wish I had.
Mm-hmm.
Is your mom had understanding, not full. Like we just talked, because she's not full dyslexia, but she had more understanding than I've had anybody in my life up until the last couple of years. Right? Nobody had any, so I've done some podcasts. Hey, Brent, did you have a coach that helped you? They didn't. Again, I was so far deep in my scars that it didn't even matter if they tried to help me. They wouldn't have been able to help me because I was too deep. But that was part of the journey, is that I wish I had. Now I do. Obviously yourself, grandma. But I never had that growing up. I never had that in my world. And that's what you had, even though you don't remember it. I guarantee your mom did certain things at a young age to instill that innate confidence in you. And she internally built that to you in ways, because she had that understanding than 99.9% of the teachers, out there.
Mm-hmm. And yes, and also my dad in a different way, in like with my personality, right? So there was like things that I had, but the thing about your journey, and this is what's so interesting, and this is why I wanted to ask that, so like you saw the positive things, right? So what do we always say? Like, you're the realist. In the beginning, it was negative, right? And I'm the unicorn, positive. So you saw the positive parts that you wish you had. I see the parts, and they're not, I don't want to say negative parts, but the parts that were hard for you. And I wish that I was in your world to have helped you back then. And so it's just an interesting personality thing if we think about this. Like, right, you saw that and you're like, and I remember that was something that you were like, oh my gosh, I remember you connecting with that part of my story,
right,
and being like, I wish I had that, right? And that's what I want to give every kid for the foundation. I want to be able to have the foundation be that. Like, so that's what connected you
and that's
there.
the support, and that's the support, that's the understanding, that's the self-esteem. You take a look at mine. There was a certain point in time where you couldn't help me.
Right.
We need to make sure we never get a kid to that.
Right.
We got to make sure the self-esteem, where you can get out of that hole so we can help. It's so every kid, we can be your mom for every kid.
Mm-hmm.
Put that innate confidence in every kid. Again, back, dinner the other night, we're talking about, obviously, at the golf event they're at the golf event and Stanley Cup dinner, and listen to Ian and Peyton speak. Like, it was so amazing. But I said to him, if you would have seen them a year and a half ago, they couldn't look you in the eyes. Never long going to stand in front of, both were a minimum of 100 people, 100 to 200 people. They both stood in front and they crushed it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a self-esteem. So our innate confidence, we will argue forever that, I believe your mom put it in you.
And my dad's mom put it in him, because of that, like, we,
No, I see you're connecting the dots. Curious. But it's in a different, in a different way. Right? Yeah. People are like, how do you connect? How do you talk to my kid this way? I'm like, I talk dyslexic. They're like, what do you mean talk dyslexic? I talk to them in the way they need to be talked to. And it's it's not a different language. It's not a different approach. It's all about the understanding and asking a simple question. Like, go back to the title being the reading league. You and I are tweaking, and Elizabeth's got no clue. And when I told that story the other night, obviously everybody at the table, I was the only dyslexic one. They're like, holy man, I would have never, ever put those two things together like that.
Right.
And John, sold his company for, he was the biggest HVAC company in Vegas, massive. One of the biggest companies, probably, sold it for hundreds of millions. Awesome. Had, so it's not like I was sitting with, with smart people, very smart, tons of everybody in that table is smart, but they didn't see it that way.
No. And the person that created the reading league and the group that was sitting around was like, we want dyslexics to understand that they can read and we're a part of it and we're their champion. So we're going to do a reading league because that's going to make you feel good.
Right.
They have no
and this is
understanding.
where they're all missing. You're not championing shit.
Mm-mm.
You're actually pissing me off more.
Right.
All that, we'll get into that, next week about,
I'm excited about
look at that teaser, right? Into all these people think that the word people talking about dyslexia, it's bringing it up. It's actually making it worse. And, that'll be next week's episode. Lead into here as we decide to.
Well, we're going to wrap that. This was perfect. And I just think it's really interesting because I think the correlations of what you took out of my story and what I took out of your story, and then our personalities, it's just a really interesting thing to, like, if someone wants to get deep and curious, all the psychologists that listen to this, like, it is a very, there's a lot behind that, and we can dig and dive into that on another episode. But I think that's like a really cool thing to kind of really put together. And we're going to leave it at that. So thank you for joining Word Blindness Dyslexia Exposed. I liked, Brent, how you connected. You brought things back.
Yeah, just for you.
I know. Look at that Monday. That made me very happy. I appreciate it.
Well, everybody keep fit and have fun.
Yep. And like, rate, review, and share.